Joe Banner. First time here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you been, Joe?
I'm doing real well, and good to be on with you.
Really appreciate that. So how should fans view this contract that the Eagles signed Carson Wentz to, Joe?
Well, if you're rooting for the Eagles, you should be very, very, very happy.
Why is that?
Simple. So here's the simple way to look at it. There's $66 million in guaranteed money at the time of signing in the deal. Between this year and next year, the Eagles already owed him $31 million, which was essentially guaranteed. Not literally, but essentially. There's no scenario. He could go out and tear his ACL tomorrow. There's no scenario in which he's not making that $31 million. So for an additional $35 million, just think about that in today's NFL. For the additional $35 million, they control his rights for an extra 4 years. I mean, that's half of the guaranteed money Khalil Mack got. And I personally think this is a perennial Pro Bowl, potential Hall of Fame quality quarterback if he can stay healthy. So for $35 million, even including the obvious health risk and health history, I don't think you could buy anything where the downside was less and the upside was more than 4 years of his rights for a $35 million guarantee. That in worst case scenario, you put a dent in your future budgets. In the best case scenario, you have a quarterback for 6 years at, in today's market, very reasonable prices.
Well, in terms of that, Joe, his cap number, how much, if it does obviously work out to the best case scenario for the Eagles, that he stays healthy and he earns his salary every single year, the way that fans see this number, 107 million in guarantees total, or 100 million, a huge contract, 32 million a year. The idea is that he eats up too much cap space, so the team can't really build around this quarterback to get back to the Super Bowl. What do you say to that?
So there's two things that they did here very smart, and frankly, part of the Eagles' pattern in history for a long time. By doing the deal 2 years early, they put part of his cap money into the next 2 years. So in the going forward basis, in the 4 new years he has, his cap will actually average significantly less than the $32 million because they're eating part of it now. So let's just say they reduce that number to, say, an effectively $26, $27 million average for the 4 new years. If you take $26 or $27 million over what the cap will be 3 years from now, you'll see that that's actually an incredibly modest percentage and a far better position than almost anybody in the league will be in who has a top-quality quarterback. Even the unsigned guys, even if you go to the Mariottas and the Prescotts, forget even, the Goffs and the Mahomes who are going to get massive contracts. That $26, $27 million per year as a percentage of a cap that by the time it kicks in will be over $200 million and blowing towards $250 million will be extremely manageable for a team with a quality quarterback. Now, a quality quarterback should be making up for some deficiencies in some other places. So that's the way they've done it, by doing it 2 years early, by putting part of the cap charge in the next 2 years. When they get to the 4 new years, I'm not saying it won't matter. I'm not saying they won't have to be smart about hitting on some draft picks and managing the rest of the roster. But they will be in a significantly better cap position to manage that than any of the other teams will have a premium quarterback.
Joe Banner, former Eagles president and Browns front office executive here on the Rich Eisen Show. What do you say, Joe, to the concept that this is not good for the league, that teams are forced to put so many eggs into a one-position basket, so I guess still early on in a career, and more often than not now we're seeing it placed in the basket of a quarterback that is yet to play or win a single playoff game? What do you say to that, Joe?
Yeah, listen, you got to trust the guys running these teams and they're evaluating skills. And frankly, if their evaluating skills aren't good, they're not winning anyway. And if their evaluating skills are good, they're putting in it to the right people. So, the Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisbergers, we already know what they are. I think we know what Wentz is, other than the injury risk. I think we know what Goff is. I think we're going to know what these guys that have been in the league 4 or 5 years are. So if you make the mistake of taking a guy who's a pretty good quarterback, I don't mean to dump on him, but like what the Ravens did with Flacco, if you take a pretty good quarterback and pay him like an upper echelon quarterback, your chances of ending the season at the top of the heap are very, very small. And if you evaluate properly and you do it for, I think, a Wentz, or if you do it for some of these other guys that we've seen that are very upper echelon, even though I know no one's won with a $30-plus million quarterback yet, It's just a snapshot in the moment. We won't be saying that too far from now, because it's very doable. You do have to do other things better than the teams that have a cheaper quarterback. You do have less flexibility. You do have to be smarter. But it's very, very doable, and we'll see it happen here reasonably soon, even though if we look at the history of the last few years, it hasn't happened yet. So I think that the teams that are smart and the teams that are evaluating their own players properly and not being afraid of making a mistake, in other words, letting somebody go, that if you pay him $30 million, you can't win the Super Bowl with him. Take the chance, have the guts to make a mistake, and go back in and find another quarterback. And the teams that have a guy who's a real difference maker, which I think Wentz is, go ahead and pay whatever it takes, and then trust yourself to build the rest of the roster. And in this case, I think unless he continues to get hurt, the Eagles will look back and go, wow, that was some of the best money we ever spent, even though it was a lot of money.
Do you think Dak Prescott, what is going on? Why hasn't Dak Prescott gotten done yet, Joe? What do you think?
They made a mistake. I mean, and this is normal for the Cowboys. They tend to sign guys later rather than early. And I think it will get done before the season, but now they have to work off of this deal. They're going to end up paying him less than Wentz, probably, but not enough less than Wentz to make up for what I think is the qualitative difference that exists. And it's a mistake. I've said this for years when I was at the Eagles. I've said about it in the media recently. If you have a player you want to keep, the only thing waiting does is increase the price. So as they sit here and wait on the Coopers and Prescotts, the guys we all know, and they all know, by the way, so do their agents, they're going to keep. The only thing that's happening is it's becoming more expensive to keep those guys. And they should have realized that a Goff or a Wentz could have gotten signed, and then that was only going to make their deal more expensive. So they'll get a deal done, and it won't be massively more than it would have been. But the longer they wait, the higher the price is going to be.
So when do you think Goff gets done, Joe Banner? When do you think that happens?
Well, Goff is a little different because, they sign late, guys, also, and they've spent a lot of future money. Now, if I was running the team, I would say we need to find a way to get Goff done as soon as we possibly can. I would have tried to do it before Wentz got done. Because, the way it gets done is, you don't have to be the best player in a position to be the highest paid. You only have to be in the group of best players and have done the most recent deal. If you're in the group of best position, you did the most recent deal, you will be the highest paid guy at your position. So, the longer they wait on Goff, the more it will cost. I would advise them, if anybody asked, to do the deal as soon as they could. The Rams' history, though, is that's not what they're going to do. They'll probably make him play at least another year before they try to do a deal. Now, history isn't always right, but it's usually right. And if they act as they have historically, they're going to wait another year before they do the deal.
And you, Joe Banner, who knows Andy Reid very well, do you think Andy Reid's going to go and sign Mahomes sooner than anybody possibly thinks? What do you think?
Well, Andy knows all the things that I believe, and I think he agreed with them when it comes to things like this. And on that basis, he will sign Mahomes the first moment he can to the best deal he can get, which would be a year from now after he completes his third year and before somebody does any more deals that are likely to push the market up dramatically. Now, if Mahomes' guys are unreasonable and he doesn't think he's getting any benefit, remember, the Eagles just signed Wentz 2 years early. You should get some discount in the deal for shifting the risk from the player to you. If Mahomes guys just want to drive a home run and get the biggest deal they possibly can, they may not be able to get a deal done. But I'd be very surprised if they don't engage in serious conversations a year from now and try to do that deal as early as they possibly can.
Last one for you, Joe Banner. Do you think we're going to see the time where a team elects to not give a huge contract to a young player with a lot of promise but zero playoff appearances or some form of an injury risk and decide to start from scratch and let that quarterback go? And if so, which front office and quarterback situation do you think that's most likely to happen?
So my regretful answer is that too much of decision-making league is driven by self-preservation. And to ask a head coach and a general manager to go from somebody they think is a good quarterback, but if you pay him $30 million a year, probably means you can't win a Super Bowl, and risk not having the replacement, in which case you could win 3, 4, or 5 games next year and get fired. I just don't see anybody with that mental mindset running a team right now and taking that risk. And the only way it happens is if an owner intervenes and says, I understand the risk. I'm part of this decision-making process. I'm going to support you through this. And, let's move on, because what I want to do is win Super Bowls, not make the playoffs. And I can't tell you that I can look at 32 teams and see any that I think have an owner that would do that and a general manager, head coach that would trust that and then take that chance. Doesn't mean they shouldn't, but I don't see it happening.
I lied. I got one last one. How do you think this all affects the CBA conversation that's beginning right now, Joe Banner?
Well, it shouldn't. But the history is that the people tend to see things in a short-term window and be affected by things that just happen. In my mind, the players should be picking 2 or 3 really crucial things that impact all of the players in a significant way and fight and trade off whatever they need to get that. And frankly, that's about the percentage they get. It's about the minimum spend requirements. It's about trying to find a way to escalate the middle class into a pay range that they deserve. It's about those few primary things. If they get distracted by other things, their gains will be too diffused, and they won't get the benefits that the players as a collective group should be getting in these major areas.
I meant from the ownership position, though, from the membership, that some owners are like, why do we have a system where I've got to pay all this money to somebody that's barely even 25 years old, not really knowing if they are the long-term answer? I've got a good idea, but why do I need to commit so many cap dollars to this one player without enough information?
I think the only thing it does from the owner's side is for them to be motivated to fight harder to keep the current rookie system, so at least they get the 3 or 4 years that they need. Remember, the union would love to see a system where all deals are only 4 years, or you can do new contracts after only 2 years of a rookie contract versus 3. I think it motivates them to hold on to the current system harder. Otherwise, all they really care about is that there's a hard cap, maneuverable hard cap, and then let each team be as smart or not smart as they are and prevail or not. But I do think it motivates them to stay in a fight harder than they may have otherwise to retain the rules around the rookie pool.
Joe, you're the man. This is a great chat. I knew I wanted you on my show. It's just taken so damn long. I hope this is the first of many times.
Happy to do it and glad to be on with you, Rich. Take it easy.
You got it. It's Joe Banner, former Eagles president, former Browns front office executive CEO.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.